And like I said, you didn't look to seek out people to come hop on your records, not even producers. Like I knew DJ Pooh and other people. I didn't look at, okay, let me get him to work on a record for me. I didn't even look at Egypt to, hey, produce this record for me. You know, to me, I guess looking at it back then when, you know, it was like, if you're an artist, you should be able to do all of it.
Right. Now, early on, speaking of that, my favorite is Schoolie D, and he, like you, played music. He did, more than just rap. So for you, once you started making music, in addition to rapping, how do you think that affected what you did or changed your direction compared to someone that was just rapping and relying on other people?
It took away, probably took away from my creativity because not only was I doing all that stuff, I was also booking the shows and handling the business and making sure the records happen. And I think it took away from what I needed to do in the studio because eventually I pawned off the producing and stuff like that to Joe because I had to work so much on the business end of our career and it took away from me being artistic. And then, me dealing with people that work the records at radio, I started thinking more of, okay, how's this going to get on the radio? And I need to make a radio record and all that. So it hampered me as far as being an artist.
Wow. Okay. And then with the Me and Joe album, with that being on the Egyptian Empire and West Coast distribution, what did you guys were in this amazing independent pool of artists. So what was like with Alonzo, Egyptian, Unknown, all these different people that were business people as well as artists. So what did you pick from each one of them that were a part of this West Coast record distributors?
What was weird, man, is everybody was just doing their own thing. I never tried to make a record that sounded like anybody else. Of course, you're always influenced. I mean, that's just going to happen. But I never looked at the Dream Team, world class wrecking crew, and said I got to do something like this or this or that, or we got to go out on the road together. Let's team up and do all of us do a show together. Back then, it was just so you were just so individual. You know what I'm saying? From everybody else. It's really weird. I wish I had the hindsight I have now back then, but it was everybody did their own thing and you didn't try to do what other people did. Like if somebody else used the 808 or somebody used the Roland or the Linn drum, you didn't try and use it just because they did. It was really everybody was really on their own thing back then, man. It's weird looking back on it now, but nobody tried to, hey man, I need that. I'm like nobody would say, man, I need those sounds that you got. Nobody would do that.
Right. Yeah, it's a much different game now.
It's way different, man.
And speaking of differences, on This Is For The Homies, as a little kid, and I've never done any drugs or anything, but I always remember how you were saying, hold a mic, not a joint. And I always thought that was interesting because at that time in the 88 era, Public Enemy, yourself, EPMD, Boogie Down Productions, a lot of people were very clear. Even Rob Bass, said, was saying stuff. So why was it interesting or noteworthy for you to put that in a rap that you weren't doing that at the time?
It's just nobody that I was around was smoking weed. Nobody was even drinking. It just wasn't. It back then. It just wasn't a part of the hip hop culture at all. You know what I'm saying? It just wasn't. Gang banging, all that. It just wasn't a part of it. It was straight hip hop, man. It was break dancing, it was rapping, it was DJing, and that was it. Weed, alcohol, beer, it really wasn't a part of our get down. Even going out on the road and stuff like that. I don't never remember even being with NWA and a bunch of different groups out there. Nobody was like, let's go to the liquor store and get. Nobody was on that. Nobody.
Right. And when do you remember that changing?
The Chronic.
Okay.
The craft of the Chronic, man. Yeah, that's I can really say. I wouldn't say that's when everybody's. I'm sure I know people were smoking weed and stuff like that before then, but it was like more like I can kind of say weed was more like a closet drug. You know what I mean? It wasn't out there. You wasn't proud to fire up a joint in front of people back then.
Right.
You might do that in the corner somewhere or in the privacy of your home. It wasn't like, yeah, I got this weed, y'all want to roll up? It wasn't like that.
Right.
So
right.
I think the Chronic turned people out, man.
Okay. Well, one thing about the Me and Joe album that I always enjoyed was that it sounded like it was so much fun that you guys had while just the records sound fun, and Let's Have Some Fun is on there, of course. But for you, when you listen to it or when you perform it or when you think about it, what was the environment of creating Let's Have Some Fun in these different records? It sounds
Well, you got to remember everything that we did. I mean, I guess it goes from Uncle Jam's Army to like the clubs. It was just all about, that's when people was partying and clubbing and going out. So I was like, I always wanted to make records for the club. I always wanted to make party records. You know what I mean? And I used to go to Uncle Jam's Army and clubs and just sit there and not dance and just watch the DJs and just go to listen to the music and watch the people dance and stuff like that. So I always wanted to have one of those records that when the record came on in the club that people got up and people stayed on the dance floor. And that was my main thing for making those records, man. I wanted party records. I didn't care about street cred or nothing like that. I wanted party and radio records.
Interesting. Because one that really always stood out to me was the Give Me the Mic, because that one was much smoother, largely thanks to the beat, of course. But what made you production-wise and sonically, choose that sample and get much smoother on that sound of that one?
That was a record I just loved, man. I used to love that record. It used to come because when I grew up in Riverside, there wasn't a urban radio station, and there was a college radio station that used to come on Sundays, and they would always play that record every Sunday. So I grew up with that instrumental record. And, if you just listen to that record, I don't care if you're driving on the freeway, going down PCH, and, in Malibu, that record just does something to you. So I wanted something smooth with a hard beat behind it. And that was one of my favorite records. A lot of the stuff that you hear, those are some of my favorite records on the Me and Joe album. So I just incorporated those into it.
Okay. And then with It's My Rope, General Jeff is rapping on there. And I know on the album, you guys are listed as producing and writing the whole album together. So on that song, what made General Jeff really take more of a prominent role or vocally?
Man, I'm doing a whole album, man, and it's like there's no features. So to write, and back then it was 16s. So you'd have 3 16s on one record. And I'm producing the record too. Joe's not a producer at this time. Joe's just doing the turntables. So I'm writing, producing, booking the studio time, booking the shows. I need some help, man. I need some help. You know what I'm saying? You're talking about $150, $250 an hour. I need some help. So Jeff was around. He used to come in, and then back then too, man, it was like I wasn't this is all produced by me. It's all me. It's all me. Y'all kick back. I'm the producer. Uh, uh, to be honest, I didn't even look at myself as a producer back then. I was just having fun and looping the shit that I liked. So I didn't look at it like I was Quincy Jones. I didn't look at it like I was a DJ Quick, or I didn't look at it my career like that. So if somebody had some input, okay, cool. The more the merrier. I don't care how the record comes to be as long as it does what it's supposed to do. So Jeff and Joe got a lot of writers credit when I wouldn't say that they didn't deserve it, but back then it's like we're family. We're all in this. You get credit too. I would do it different now, but back then, you know what I'm saying? It's like if you came in and helped with one line, okay, you get writers credit too. That's how it was, because I didn't care. I didn't look at it like, am I going to get paid for this 15, 20 years later and somebody get a cut that really didn't even put in nothing? I didn't look at it like that.
Okay. Interesting. Now, of course, there's Cooley High, which is another great one. And that one, to your point, has the solos from Joe on there. But one of the things I really liked was on the I Don't Think So, the Going Back to Kelly by LL, how you guys did that section of the record.
Yeah.
So do you remember what made you want to use that specific thing on Cooley High?
Writing those records, I had to think about what acapellas was out there, and I wanted it to be noticeable when Joe put the stuff in, so I would try and use records that were popular, because I didn't look at it like, oh, we got to get this cleared, you know. I didn't look at it like that.
Okay. And what did you like about Going Back to Cali by LL?
Just that it had that acapella at the end of it. Nothing more than that. I mean, it was a popular record, so like I told you, anything that we was gonna use had to have an acapella, and there wasn't a lot of stuff, but that was real popular. So I thought about that before I even wrote it.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. And then Nobody Did, that was one where the chorus didn't have the scratching. So what was the creative decision on that?
On which part?
Nobody Disses Me. After the first verse, there's really no scratching like that, like on the majority of the rest of the album.
Right. It was it was all about just sonically at that point. We'd just be in there and Joe would bring out something and he would never be like, let's use this. I'd be like, that's it right there. Record that. You know what I mean? And that's how that came about. That was just something that was just straight sonically. It wasn't no thought. And it was, here's your solo. Get down.
Be sure to check out the History of Gangster Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the D.O.C, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
There will be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
With Fab 5 on Yo MTV Raps with NWA.
Yo MTV, it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gangbang rappers.
The History of Gangster Rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
It's always gonna be shit happening in the streets. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The History of Gangster Rap in stores now.